In an attempt to process my time abroad, I wrote a show. And every time I've performed that show since I was abroad in 2007, it's been different. In that video, people talked a lot about having a transforming experience. And that's so true. My time abroad transformed me. But my time since my time abroad has transformed me too. In preparation for one of the performances I did, I was reading through the script and I actually didn't believe part of it. I had to go back into my own journal entries to verify that something I had written about my own experiences was true. Because, just like I said, you continue to grow. But your time abroad continues to infiltrate every part of you as well. It's an ongoing transformation that as you keep growing, as you ask new questions, as you have new experiences, affects all of those things. I'm going to perform an excerpt from the show that covers two study abroad homestays in Uganda. I have baggage. Previous relationships, tendencies, mistakes, and accomplishments. I'm dog-eared and torn. Margins full of side notes. A semester abroad freed me from that. Freed me from the worn representations of myself I had worn into. So I was surprised to find me following myself around, relieved to find me alongside and inside this renewed self in East Africa, grateful to find some bookmarks faded or dissipated in transition and others clearer in contrast. In the weeks before I left for my semester abroad, a commonly asked question was, "Are you nervous about anything?" I'll do a 2-week stay with a Ugandan family in my first month there, and yes, I'm terrified. My image of what homestays would look like, me struggling to bathe in the dark with a bucket of cold water, desperate for some conversation without endless, exhausting miscommunication. Hello, fear, how are you? But for 2 weeks, I walked from home to campus at Uganda Christian University every day. On the path to the main road, I would pass at least 3 pigs every morning, and rooting through garbage and muck, they would greet me with hearty trills of oinking. Did they know they were greeting Nasali, named for the cleverest of the Chima clan? My homestay papa gave me that name. I suddenly understood those grandparents who tall tale of walking uphill both ways to school when they were young. My feet were stained orange for months from the 45-minute walk back and forth to campus. And it really was uphill both ways. In the morning, I would slip through the back gate to campus as the sun came up over Monkey Hill. And in the evenings, I would turn left at the clock on Kampala Road and begin the final trek uphill as the sun set over Mukono town. Our latrine was across the cement compound that we shared with the neighbors, and I did not foresee joy in having to unlock the red metal back door and cross the compound in the middle of the night, headlamp aglow, toilet paper in hand. Ideally. But the view? The night sky in East Africa? I'm in Africa. No, really, you should use a pit latrine at night in Africa sometime. You won't regret it. And it's a great thigh workout. Papa's home. Kuli kayo papa oliotia sebo? Webale. At the end of the first week, my papa gave me a cool, hard square of milk chocolate. At the end of week 2, I brought you a fried fish. I felt the hot, slimy exterior of an entire freshly fried fish. Deborah, my homestay mother, placed it on a plate in the middle of the table and ripped off its side to put in front of me. She chewed on its scales as my sister Flavia sucked on its tail, and Papa, as head of the household, sucked out its eyes. I woke up the next morning still burping fish. My homestay family called me Nasale. My peers at Uganda Christian University called me Kimberly. And I'd hear Kimmy called through phone lines in Connecticut. My homestay mother requested to be called by her first name, Deborah. It was her mother's name. Perhaps in the calling forth of Deborah, I called out of her the strength and love she desired to reflect of her namesake. Is a different self called out of me with every name that resounds in my direction? Am I more clever when Nasali and more adventurous when Kimberly? I fell once on the way home. The red dirt called me forth, and I almost slipped into the cement crevice of a drainage ditch that runs between the walking path and the road. I didn't, but would Nasali misstep in such a way? And would Kimmy from Connecticut be walking along Kampala Road in Mukono, Uganda? The children along that road would yell out, "Bye! Bye, Mzungu!" The braver of the tattered beings would yell out, "Mzungu, give us dollars!" What were they attempting to call out of me? Did they really want my American dollars? Or a meager though humorous attempt at a Luganda, "Hello, how are you?" Oliotia nyabo.
Still I must invite, if there's anything to say, if there's anything to do, if there's any other way, I'll do anything for you.
I do not recall the earliest point at which I dreamt of a hut in Africa. I wish I still had the pictures that my friend Russell drew of me from across Mr. Avila's 7th grade history class. If I did, in them you would see red pen drawn, stick figure me, posing in front of a hut in Africa, playbill in hand. I'm imagining Russell's artistry as the truck turns off the main road and begins the 15-minute drive through African bush to my rural homestay. 80% of Uganda is rural, is like this. We roll up the windows to keep snakes from coming in off the grasses. It doesn't block out the frightened screams of pot-bellied children, though. Oh, the continued anomaly of my white skin. My life seems to culminate as a compound of huts and latrines and graves appears. The truck stops, and I'm practically pulled out by Toto, a Tesso for Mom. Toto and Papa, a couple in their 70s, become yet another pair of parents. Papa paid 20 cows and 8 goats for Toto, a bride price he proudly shares. Most of my family speaks at least broken English, but when jesting, Iteso prevails. I miss the jokes, but catch the laughter. And my attempts to weed cassava and groundnuts, clean roast and grind groundnuts, grind millet flour, carry water on my head from the borehole, all provide plenty of opportunity for laughter. We eat everything with our hands. We sing together, sitting outside on mats or on the floor of my hut in the evening. And kolende balunjina yamba and kolende balunjina tenda. Or a personal favorite, even the militia bow before him. We visit neighboring compounds. A compound of 3 huts. No latrines, but there are graves. Well-swept dirt, too. You sweep your dirt in Uganda. The equivalent of raking leaves in New England in the fall. The 11 orphan children keep it well. Now I meet the only child who does not fear my color in 4 East African months. Her inarticulate tones are laughed at by Toto, but then scolded when she pulls on my niece Mercy's hair. She tries to bite me. She's not only uninhibited towards me, she's enthralled. Her right arm is immobile except for its swing by her limping frame, and she's not mute, but only makes agonizing yearnings, violent, childish groans. She pulls on my hair, and I stroke hers. She pokes at my face, pulls on my nose, and I place my hand on her cheek. I cradle her face in my hands, and she melts into me. All yearnings cease except for a quiet whimpering. I stroke the hair on the head in my lap for the remainder of the visit, only pausing to stop her from chewing on my watch band. So what? So what? So I had this beautiful series of moments, this exquisite opportunity to love on a child in a country that will laugh at her speech and leave her in a hut in the middle of the bush. I did not change her life. I will never see her again. It is difficult to summarize this experience. Like T.S. Eliot, I find it difficult to squeeze the universe into the ball and roll it towards some overwhelming question. I don't know what questions to ask anymore. And who do I ask them to? Do I ask the small disabled child? I arrived with the windows rolled up, returned home a prodigal child to Toto and Papa, who had seemed to be waiting so long for me. I left feeling more than ever the risk of forgetting. I cannot risk forgetting this place where my heart sat down and my hands stopped shaking. I crumbled when I left. My niece Mercy had stopped fearing me at that point, and I cradled her in my arms in the moments before leaving. Toto gave me millet flour we had pounded and ground together, and my sister Ruth gave me cookies I'd watched her fry over the Sakiri. Papa picked me a dozen oranges. I crumbled when I left, and days later I continued to crumble, and I continue to pick up these pieces. I hope I will not gather them all, though. I don't want to recover from this.